just ran in the room. Let me try something. What a fiasco on Wednesday. Fine, it wasn't my fault, and the internet went down. I apologize. In fact, I was even laughing. It's like at the very end of the movie, it's the ta-da, and it came down. I was so proud of last week's or last Wednesday PowerPoint. This is a good one. Well, not so. Anyways, today's Friday, the 9th, April, and I hope you're all doing well right now. I'm sad that Philip died. I love watching the royal family, and I guess I got hooked in when Di came in on the scene. And in fact, in going through my stuff, because I'm cleaning out stuff like left and right, I have a newspaper of when Di got married, and I don't know what to do with it. I almost feel like it's horrible to throw away, but I've been storing it since then. If there's any hardcore Di collectors, get hold of me, okay? Because it's kind of, I don't want to throw it away, but I don't want to store it anymore. So, what is going on? Well, yesterday was a really special day and really, really hard. There are people in your lives that you've known forever, like when John and I were young newlyweds, when we first lived in Pinole and our babies were being born at the same time, is Lois. And Lois and I have been friends like forever. And she's one of those people where you call and you maybe you haven't talked to her in half a year or whatever, but it's still there. Well, since she has retired in the last, I don't know, maybe 3 years, I'm not sure, we have become very, very close because she's a kindergarten teacher. And boy, she retired just in time with all the teaching stuff that's going on. But anyways, they're moving. They're leaving Grass Valley and they're going to go back to upstate New York, Rochester, to be with her daughter and family. So, um, I, even though we still didn't see each other, we probably talk on the phone every other day, but we decided to meet halfway. And that happened to put us at a sewing machine store. Imagine that. We were at Meisner's. And we knew we couldn't go out and eat anywhere. So I said, I'm going to put together a tailgate party. And so we had a ball. And while we were out there tailgating, I got my sewing machines, two of them serviced. One, I don't think I've ever had serviced ever. And then the other was my 765 that I got at Kraft Napa about 3 years ago. So we had ourselves a little party out there, and it was so much fun. In fact, some persons, a lady had been in the store and she came out and she goes, "Can I just take a picture of this?" So that is a solution if you don't want to go to a restaurant or whatever. And the meal was so simple. I went to Trader Joe's and I did a bunch of salads and put them in little containers, and we had fruit. And then I made a charcuterie board. I always say it wrong, but you know what I'm saying. And the only thing missing was a nice bottle of wine, but both of us had to drive about an hour and a half to get there. So that was off the table. Iced tea for us, right? Yay. So I will miss Lois immensely, but I know our friendship is not changing in any way because when two hearts are connected, two hearts are connected. Now, I want to, before we get into today's lesson, which is how much, I'm going to do what I was going to do Wednesday when we got cut off. But first, I want to talk about fabric requirements for spinning spools. We have the fabric requirements up now, and how you're going to find it. I did not know about breadcrumbs, but I'm going to teach you about breadcrumbs right now if you don't know. So you see the purple bar on top where it says join now, and right below it there is a gray area, and home is where you come on the site, go to the far left, then you go to learn, then you go to Alex Anderson's classrooms, then you go to Spinning Spools Quilt, and then you go to fabric requirements and supply list. And so in our site, if you ever get lost, look at the breadcrumbs. When we were creating the site, one person said, everybody knows what breadcrumbs are. And I'm like, oh, I don't think so. I sure didn't know what it was. So the fabric requirements are there and they're cutting like mad to get more out. Also, this Sunday's show was pretty darn wonderful. The guest was Mel Beach, and we taped in Livermore. It was just, I was solo hosting. And Mel is from the San Jose area, and she has a plethora of great information. And I would say that her show was kind of a charcuterie tray. So one of the things she did, which I thought was brilliant, was she did 100 days of dice doodles. And we explain it on the show, and I'll goof it up here, but basically you roll the dice, and one color will tell you what to do, the next color will tell you what to do, and that way you sit down and you follow the clues of what your dice has rolled at. So for instance, this is on the back of a quilt that she gridded out 100 squares, and then she quilted, and she does it every day for 100 days in a row, and then she would quilt out whatever the dice rolled for her. So obviously something had to do with RBG, and then to the left, We the People. It was fabulous. And what's so great is, I don't know about you, but I'll get into my workspace and I go, I don't know what to do. But if you just roll the dice and then look at the chart that it corresponds to, yay. The other thing she did, which was super cool, I'm telling you, she is amazing. She made a cloth composition book. Remember this, you guys, that we had in high school? And then inside, she even made the pages out of cloth. And then she went through, a bunch of different quilting cartwheels that go in each page, and that's her reference point. She also did the 100-day dice roll, working with shapes and things like that. So obviously the dice here had something to do with triangles. Okay. If you look to the right hand side, that had to do with swirls. It is like super creative. And then last but not least, another segment was on how she approaches curved applique. And it was very, very simple and very, very effective. So this show was chock full of good stuff. Mel Beach. All right. And remember, if you haven't joined, it's a good time to do it because you have access to the block of the month. We also have Janet Stone's, Janet Stone's A to Z, free quilt pattern. We have a lot of really good stuff there. Okay, so let's get to my little camera and let's reenact what should have happened on Wednesday. So where we were at was, we went through the color wheel. We went through complementary. Well, let me go down to this camera here. We did complementary, which is working across the color wheel. As a little recap, that's like a good steak meal. It's very classic. We have triad or triangle, which is snap, crackle, pop, kind of like a really spicy Mexican meal. And then we have analogous, which is working on one side of the wheel. And it's an ugly little footstool leg, and it is very soothing. It is very comforting. So I had this, I found in my stash, and I said, okay, and I think this is when we went dark. I'm going to start with the red here. I'm going to put the red here. I'm going to put the orange here. I know it's like, ta-da! Oh, never mind. The movie's over. Credits. So here's this. Here's this. And then I'm just going to put that one there. All right. So let's work the wheel. Let's do complementary, which is like a steak and potato meal. So if I go directly across, and this is kind of a yucky blue. I'm going to get a better blue in there. There we go. If I go across the wheel from blue, whoop, I go to, let's go to a yellow orange. So here we go. That is going to work every single time. And honestly, this is how I work with solids all the time. All right. Then let's say I want to do triad or triangle. I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to bring in this here, and I'm going to bring in purple here. And there you've got a very snappy, snappy look, I think. Then let's do analogous. Analogous is working one side of the wheel. So I have this, kind of red-orange, and fuchsia. Look how beautiful that is. That's or magenta. That's absolutely gorgeous, and it feels good. Hey, let's go over to blue. Again, this is, I don't like this blue, but it was in the packet. It's what I bought. Green. There. Lovely. So I do work the wheel all the time, and I shared on Wednesday that I have one in my sewing room that I can always see. This is a picture that I'm actually working on a quilt, just using the colors and the statement of the picture from a Jean Wells class. And I grabbed this and it was like, what is this relationship? Well, it's across the color wheel. That's what it is. It's across the color wheel. It works. So I don't know. I kind of hesitate to tell you what I watch on TV, but I did watch Nurse Ratched. And it's not for the faint of heart. Let me start with that, but it's really good. But the set design was very, very interesting to me. It was very often like two colors, just two colors. And she is really an evil, awful person, but they're trying to give you a feeling here. So let's look at those two colors and see what the feeling is. So I wonder if I can make this smaller while we look at the wheel. I'll bet I can. There we go. Let's twist this around. Okay, so what we have going on is we've got kind of this blue, this violet in her jacket. And then we have all this green right in here, this kind of green. Well, that's tertiary triangle, okay? And so it was so weird because I'm sitting there watching this show and I'm like going, I got to take a picture of this because the color on it is amazing. And I will tell you, I learned a lot about the effectiveness of color and what it does to you when I actually took an advertising class in college and layout and design and all that. But color affects everything. Well, really, truly, as I said the other day, value does the work, light to dark, but color can really affect your mood. So depending on what you're trying to get out of it, that will dictate how you work the wheel. And some of you asked, where can you get this? You can get this at the TQS store. And then the other thing I spoke about was the Katie Fowler foolproof color wheel, where she has 10 different ways that you can put color together for different results, like split complementary and all that. But that's too much brain power for me to give out right now. So I hope that worked for you. All right, now I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, and John better be standing by because I'm going to talk about, so just how much fabric do I buy? I've got a lot of fabric. And before I get there, I remember when a friend in my guild's house burnt down, and for some reason the smoke didn't, there was a fire. Because if her house burnt down, this couldn't have happened. But she had yards of fabric, of like one fabric. What just went out? Okay, YouTube we're having a hard time with, and we don't know what it is. John shows it as being on, but YouTube has been giving us a run for, all of technology has been giving us a run for our money lately. But anyway, so my girlfriend, we all washed fabric for her. And I was like astounded that she had that much yardage. It kind of just amazed me. I don't buy like that, but I will tell you how I do buy. So let's get up to where we need to go. Oh, I do have to go to my screen. I'm getting the hang of this. I'm getting the hang of this. All right, so see, there we went through last time. And now we want to talk about how much. So I have to laugh because this picture, I like buying off the bolt. Although now I've kind of been swayed by fat quarters, but I can kind of tell about how much I'm going to spend based on the weight of bolts in my arm. And so I like to pull from bolts. Do I go to fat quarters? Sure. But let's take a look, see here. So I'm going to start identifying fabric and what it is and what it looks and what I call it. I call this sparkle fabric, and I think we might have done this Monday. I'm not 100%, but it's a color that has white on it. Yes, we did talk about this Monday. I will get about a third plus yard, depending on how spectacular it is. Honestly, the upper orange one doesn't really float my boat, but the two blue ones do, so I might get a little bit more. I never get a quarter yard because if I choose to pre-wash it, it will just bungle up in my dryer and washer. So I like to do third yard. Now, focus fabric, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I will get enough for a border. And my quilts rarely get over 70, rarely. 48 to 50 is kind of the sweet spot. It's because I think I get sick of the quilt and I want to get on to the next thing. But you've got to assess what type of quilt maker you are and then get enough for the border, add an extra third yard to it. Now, that said, we'll talk about this next week. This is focused to give you a way to pull fabrics. It might not ever show up in the quilt, but you're going to be super sad if you don't have enough for a border. Honestly, I rarely put borders on my quilts, so I will often end up using it on as the backing. But the one on the right, I did run out of in making a quilt. And I remembered my friend had a skirt made out of it. And you couldn't find this for whatever. It was the late Emma Albus. And I called her up and I said, can I just please buy your skirt? And she said, no. Okay, we talked about color bridge fabrics. The green is the one that's probably the easiest to see, but you take a color like green and you want all the different greens you could possibly get jammed into it. That orange on the upper left has some yellows and different variants of orange, as well as the blues down below. These are color bridge fabrics, and I will get a half a yard plus, because these are a little bit harder to come by. I mean, seriously. I love my stripes and polka dots. In the olden days, polka dots and stripes were very hard to come by, but now they're more prevalent. And it doesn't have to be a structured stripe like in the upper left-hand side. It could be like the green one, the two green ones. And it doesn't have to be a structured circle like the bottom right is not. So stripes add a sense of uniform, calming down. Circles add playfulness. I will often use my stripes for inner borders because my quilts are very mashed up with many, 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 many fabrics. And to me, it helps control it and just give it a little bit of a break. Now, neutrals are really hard to get your hands on, good neutrals, and we'll be talking about that next week. I will get half to 1 yard. If there's one good neutral a season, I count myself lucky, and I will be discussing what a good neutral is in my world. I do believe next week. Lights, half yard, it's going to kill you to spend money on that when you can have something much more exciting. But if you don't have that range of light, medium, dark, ugh. And then other than the green, that neutral there is fabulous because it's got different sorts of neutrals in it. The beige, the blue, and the pink are also sparkle fabrics because they've got the white on top. And look at how much more interesting those three are than the one in the upper right. The reason I might purchase the one in the upper right is if it is a brand new color that I've seen. And again, a lot of this is pulling together what we've learned already this week. Novelty, I don't know. This stuff is so funny and so weird. Just get what you want. It depends. When they had Lady of Guadalupe fabric, I lost my mind and I bought a ton of it because I just love religious icons from different cultures and religions. And it's also important to buy fabric you don't even like. I mean, seriously, I'm not one for the 30s repros, but I have got a healthy collection of it because number one, if when you work with this, you will gather a new perspective of working with that fabric. If there's something you really hate, you should think about working with that fabric because it will grow you as a quilt maker. So this is a quilt that, gosh, I don't remember which book it was in. And actually, I still had a huge aversion for that fabric. And they wanted to put this quilt on the cover. And I'm like, no, please, please, please. Maybe it was fabric shopping. But I've grown to love this fabric now. It's my little butterflies. Butterfly quilts were a sign of hope, like in the 30s. It represented hope. And I actually have a butterfly quilt that was my mother-in-law's, which I feel very grateful for. Also, you never know when some Bonnet Sue is going to come into your life. And for anybody who's been following, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those that don't, well, you never will. The main thing is when you look at a fabric, don't look at it and go, oh my gosh, why do I want zucchini fabric? Think of it as how it's going to be cut up. And that Joan Wolfram tool, which I don't have around me right now, even had, I showed you, I think on Wednesday, little cutouts that you can place that on fabric to really get a good look. See, this is a fabulous piece of fabric because it has a bunch of different greens in it. It's actually got minute sparkle on it. It is fabulous, okay? So what we're going to start in, I'm going to skate next week is I'm going to quit PowerPoint. I'm going to go, if I do this right, I'm buying a lottery ticket today. um, okay, so I forgot what I was saying. Anyways, don't judge it by how it looks on the bolt. Have one of those little things with you, okay? So the other thing that was pretty funny when I was at Meisner's, John's going to hear this for the first time. I actually thought about buying a sewing machine. I didn't tell them because then I would have not left without one, but instead they got it fixed. And I wondered, or check-upped, and I wondered if I bought a sewing machine, if I could give myself one of those $100 postcards that I can give to you. And so just to reiterate that, if because you have been watching me, you are inspired to go buy a Bernina, over $1,000 Bernina, I can send you a $100 postcard that you can mail directly to Bernina in Chicago, and they will mail you a $100 check that you can spend on anything in the world. It could be a nice dinner out, okay? It doesn't have to be a Bernina product or anything like that, although you could get some add-ons that you might want. So how you get hold of me is this. And again, please just email me if it's for this or booking at Guilds or whatever. My email is you will send it to Alex, Alex, Anderson, spelt weird, ANDRSN at gmail.com. And you will give me your snail mail address and I will get it off in the mail to you within 24 hours. All right. Somebody sent one, I think Mary sent it to a ticket on the website, and that is just massive. And there's 4 people working on it. With the changeover of the site, there's lots of questions and stuff like that. So it kind of got lost there. I'm glad Mary Kay did hook us up though, and it's going out today. again, you have 30 days to send it in. All right. So I'm going to go down and see if there's any questions going on, or that lady from It's Okay That You Can Sit on My Quilt said you don't need to like pink ballerina fabric. Just use it if the color's right. That was Mary Ellen Hopkins, and she was something else. Yeah, she was. I went to a trunk show of hers once, and it was like, oh man. So I know we got it working. I was really afraid I would lose a bunch of you, but then maybe you log on to watch the train wreck. Now, tomorrow is Dee again doing Long Time Gone. And if you did, I'm going to say this again, if you did not watch last Saturday's, go back and watch it, because I saw something I had never ever seen in my life. Okay, so here we have Pat that always buys at least 1 yard of fabric. You know what, Pat? Your store loves you. The reason I don't do that, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, but my quilts are super scrappy. Okay. I don't do a quilt with just 4 colors in it unless it's specific, let's say a modern quilt or something like that. They are so scrappy. And my philosophy is if I run out, I can buy something else and substitute it in. The other thing I didn't say that I think is fairly important, when I go, I call my stash my support system. All right. When I go to make a new quilt, and especially if, well, just darn near always, I will go to the quilt shop and buy maybe 10 new pieces of fabric. And then that gives it an updated look. And then I can go back to my stash and pull from that. So that's kind of my brain, how I work with it. And one other thing I am so excited about is I think um, I think I've picked out my flooring. I think I'm doing the super high-end vinyl. Pat, you just asked something. Do you know what info is included on the salvage of fabric? Many times, okay, there will be the color chip, the colors that are in that fabric, and you can just look to that for it to be your guide, all right? But not always. But typically, what you hope is it's got those color chips. I wonder how many really do that. And then there's the designer's name and the manufacturer's name. And there are people who save those salvages to do really cool things with it too. Um, okay, and then Beth says she buys at least a half-yard because it's at least 2 fat quarters. Yep, that's right. That's right. And I also like, again, I've got a whole stack of fat quarters in my office. You know what? Let's go look at it. I look at it like art. I buy it, and then I can't cut into it. We have to commune for a while. So here's this is art in my office. Right here is art. And when I break it, I just want to, I have to enjoy it for a while. And I'll tell you a sneaker. The thing we do after spinning spools is going to be out of Jennifer Sampu's stuff. So pretty excited about that. Okay, I think we're good for today. John, you're not running in for any big questions, are you? I think we're good. So I appreciate you guys for coming back and hanging in there with me. And I think we've got it all under control. John says we're good. And so this weekend, I'm actually going to sit and figure out how I learned crochet in college, and I want to learn how to redo things like the granny square and stuff like that. That's what I want to do. So I don't know what you're going to do. But again, don't forget D tomorrow at 10 o'clock Pacific time. I cannot believe these quilts that are coming out of that workshop. If you look at these quilts and you go, wow, I want to play, we still have patterns available. I got to get new glasses, but I love my glasses. So, okay, everybody, have a fabulous weekend. And Lois, I love you. And we're both going to be wearing bracelets when we think of each other. Bye bye.